Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United lose 1-0 to Newcastle, but it should have been a lot more. That is probably, as ridiculous as it sounds, a good result for Manchester United. We lose to Newcastle, but we don't get our arse handed on a plate, which we probably should have done. Ridiculously one-sided game. Terrible. And look, I'll start off. It's interesting. There's a few of us in the group chat who back Ten Hag, and the majority decision is, as I'm sure many of you are tonight, that's indefensible. And I go back to the team he picked. I go back to the preview on Thursday night, and I repeat the things. He is not picking the right team for Manchester United. He is picking a team to survive that will not survive against teams that are good. Those people saying Ten Hag out, my only issue with that is, and I've been very consistent about this, is some of these players have sacked 2 managers already, and you're going to let them sack a third and think things are going to change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. By sacking the manager, you're of a mindset that you think another manager will come in and get more out of these players. Like, we have to wake up to the fact that maybe sacking the manager isn't the way to go. The problem is the same problem Mourinho had, Solskjaer had, Van Gaal had, Ten Hag has got, Rangnick had, countless managers not able to get consistency out of players who just aren't good enough. You've got players tonight who, on a freezing night in Newcastle, were warmer than us lot watching it at home because they were living insulated in the pockets of Newcastle's midfield. You've got players out there who can't be asked to run. So, look, as much as I blame Ten Hag tonight, I blame Ten Hag because of his team selections and his over-reliance on players that I've seen for years aren't good enough at this football club. And that's the big thing that I blame Ten Hag for. But to sack the manager would not fill me with any joy or hope, because I'd still be left with the same problem, and another manager would probably come in and go, just like Mourinho, just like Ten Hag, just like Solskjaer, oh, I quite like Scott McTominay, he's a good lad, put him in the midfield. And until those sort of decisions stop being made, and look, I'm not saying for 1 minute McTominay's the worst player on the pitch, but he's fucking invisible. He is invisible. I said this before. He goes missing like a rabbit shit in a bag of Maltesers. You can't see him. You know there's a load there, but you don't know which one he is. He's shit. He's absolutely shit. And I hate to say that, but Joel Linton is not the best midfielder in the world. And either McTominay's shit and Joel Linton's good, or McTominay's good and Joel Linton's the best player that's ever played the game. Because the way Joel Linton made him look tonight, there was a huge vacuum between them. And I don't think Joel Linton's the best player to ever play the game, and yet he made McTominay look absolute shite. And we pick McTominay because he's physical. It was like Tyson Fury having a fight with a Smurf. There was no physicality from Scott McTominay. He got absolutely dominated. So, look, I'm fed up of talking about individual players. I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do tonight is, and you've got your player ratings, mark every player out of 10. We'll go through each player. But what I am going to say before we do the player ratings is I blame Ten Hag for tonight. We should play manager less, at least Varane will play, says Parker. Welcome to Members Club Ripper. When was the last time we won an away game against the top 6, says Tom. Look, we play a game, the United Stand group chat, we play a game of predicting the score. I always predict Man United. Tonight I said 3-2 to Newcastle. The only thing I got wrong was that Man United would score. Newcastle should have scored 3. I never thought Man United were going to win today. I didn't. I had a reality bite and I was like, we won't win. We won't win. The Newcastle crowd are amazing. Eddie Howe's got that team playing in a pattern of play where everyone knows their job. You know, I don't do the tactic stuff a lot, but can I just say, watching Newcastle at times was weirdly pleasurable. Weirdly pleasurable. Because the way that they get the ball in all positions, and I saw Joel Linton, and I saw Miley do it, and I saw Bruno do it, and I saw Gordon do it, and I saw Almiron do it, they get the ball in a position where you think they can't do anything. They bang a 10-yard pass into another player at pace. That player cushions it a metre away, and they're already onto it. It's amazing how they play. And they're not Man City, they're not Liverpool. You know, they can do that. But the way Newcastle play and know what to do with the ball, it was pleasurable because we never do it. We've got no intention of doing it and we don't have the players to do it. Yet Newcastle, when you look at their lineup compared to ours on paper, you would say our team's probably better, but nowhere near in actual performance. Sean says, I like the manager, but he isn't a United manager. His signings have been awful. Style of play is awful. Falling out with our decent players. I think Sir Jim gets rid of him after the Liverpool game, says Sean. And we keep playing with McTominay and Rashford. It's like playing with 9 men. Poor Bruno playing with weak players, says Philemon. I mean, I thought Bruno did all right tonight. But look, why do you blame Ten Hag, Mark? Because I called it when the team came out. I said in the preview I would have played Shaw and Varane because we can move higher up the pitch with Wan-Bissaka and Reguilon on. I'd have played Amrabat with Mainu and Bruno, and I would have played Højlund up front and probably, well, Rashford or Anthony. I wish I'd said Anthony. I think I said Rashford. But ultimately, he isn't picking his best players. And you can't survive. He's been playing survival football since Brentford, and I'm tired of it. And I don't do a told you so. I'm not bothered about a told you so. I could see this coming a mile off. He's been playing this survival shit for weeks. Everton should have scored 3 goals against us. Galatasaray did. We were lucky against Luton. We were lucky against Fulham. We were lucky against Burnley. We were lucky against Brentford. And we weren't lucky tonight. We weren't lucky because the luck ran out, because he's been playing this weird survival football where he's brought players back into the team that weren't good enough. But because they're playing for the badge, he's put them in the team. And he's fell out with the players that are actually better than them. And this is this is carnage. It's carnage. Raphael Varane has been sat on the bench for 3 games in 6 days. Now, I don't care whether you think Varane should have started tonight, Galatasaray or Everton, but he should have started one of the fucking games. We've just played 6 games in 3 days. Maguire's just played 90 minutes 3 times in 6 days, and you've got a world-class centre-back you haven't given a minute to. This is Manchester United, for fuck's sake. This is not Ego United. Sort the fucking problems out. You know, but on the other hand, you'll pick Rashford every fucking game. You know, you'll pick McTominay every fucking game. You'll pick players that don't perform that you like, but you won't pick somebody that had a fallout with you who's one of our best players. Pick your best fucking players. It's as simple as that. We ain't good enough to put examples on the bench and go, it's my way or the highway. What's going to happen, Eric, is you're going to get the fucking sack because you're being stubborn at a club you can't be stubborn at. At Ajax, you might get away with it. At Ajax, the league is so weak, you can probably bench a good player for a month to make them to learn a point. But at Manchester United, we haven't got good enough players for you to be benching good players. We haven't got that luxury. And I saw the team tonight and I was like, well, I would have played Varane and Shaw because they played so well last year. But even then, I think we would have lost because the midfield was where he lost the game. The centre-back thing I'm only mentioning because of the preview, but where he really lost the game was the midfield. And I knew he'd lost the game before the game started. Somebody mentioned to me this afternoon that Joel Linton might be injured, and I was like, we might have a chance. But I knew that Joel Linton and Bruno Guimaraes would dominate our midfield. I don't know much about that Miley. I thought he played well. I don't know much about him. But I knew that Joel Linton and Bruno Guimaraes would fucking dominate, bully, destroy our midfield. And they did. Newcastle were quite shit in the final third. They missed a lot of chances. But in the midfield, if I said to you, well, look at Trippier hitting the bar, but look at some of the other chances they missed. If I said to you that Newcastle won that game 4-0, you wouldn't have been surprised. And if I'd said to you, why did they win that game 4-0, you'd have said the midfield. Their midfield played brilliantly. They just didn't score the goals they should have done. And as soon as that team came out, I went, oh, fucking hell. What's going to happen here is McTominay's going to get bullied and go missing. And Mainu's going to get absolutely swamped, and he's only 18. I felt sorry for Mainu tonight. I thought he was thrown under the bus. United got the bus instead of the plane. Well, they may as well have thrown Mainu in front of it because, figuratively speaking, he got absolutely swamped. And this is what I mean about the Everton performance. I know there's going to be a Mainu performance like that. There'll be many more. There'll be many more Everton ones because he's going to go through being an 18-year-old player. He's going to have ups and downs. He is, for me, one of the only players on the pitch tonight that gets away with it because he basically, and I have to blame the man. I'm not blaming the manager because I'm saying sack the manager. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm blaming the manager because he's either thick or something else. I don't know, because he walked straight into the most obvious trap that I know. And I'm not a Premier League manager, and you know, and you're not a Premier League manager. As soon as he picked that midfield, I was like, this is going to go really wrong unless he's going to do something we've never seen before. At the start of the season, people were saying Casemiro's fell off and his legs have gone. He hadn't fell off. His legs haven't gone. For some reason, Ten Hag this season has decided his midfield three is going to be made up of one holding midfielder and two attacking midfielders. And at the start of the season, Casemiro got absolutely dominated because he's got too much to do. And we did it against Newcastle today away from home. McTominay still wandering up front with Bruno, and Mainoo's on his own. On his own, in against people like Bruno Guimaraes and Joel Linton, he's on his own. And I could see it coming a mile off, and you could see it coming a mile off, and we've just watched 90 minutes of it. So I don't blame Mainoo, because, well, for one, he's only 18, but it wouldn't matter if it was Rodri, it wouldn't matter if it was Kimmich, it wouldn't matter if it was Declan Rice. You can't do that job on your own when you've got Scott McTominay and Bruno pissing off up there. And when Bruno has to come back, he's not a holding midfielder. So we were not equipped. What he should have done, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, is he should have put somebody next to Mainoo and said, stay there. We're playing away from home against a team that likes to attack with a big audience and an intimidating ground. We stick two midfielders in front of our defence, one attacking midfielder, and we stay compact. And I tell you what, if he doesn't do it at Anfield, he's going to lose 10-0. I don't know why he didn't do it. I don't know why he left Mainoo as a sacrificial lamb, but you cannot put... And look, maybe Ten Hag would say, I did. I told McTominay to do that. Well, there's your mistake, because he can't fucking do it. What he should have done is put Amrabat next to Mainoo. I'm not saying we would have won. I'm not saying we would have won at all. But he should have put Amrabat next to Mainoo and said, sit there, the pair of you, and protect that back four. And we didn't do it, and I could see it a bloody mile off, and that's why I blame Ten Hag, because he got it so wrong tonight. So wrong. So wrong. Attacking-wise, look, I've got to talk about it. Garnacho hardly in the game. I've got no problem with Martial coming off for Højlund, but Højlund did nothing as well. I mean, I look in the chat, I want Højlund to start. I think Højlund should have started, but to be honest with you, for those people in the chat who were saying Martial's shit, take him off, he wasn't shit. There was nothing to do. There was nothing going on. And when Højlund came on, there was nothing to do. We've labelled this for years. It's a bloody graveyard shift. There's nothing going on. You could put Erling Haaland up front. Nothing would change. Strikers are reliant on service. There's no service. There's no service. So, you know, the fullbacks got absolutely annihilated. I thought Dalot had a bad game. I thought Almiron, if he could finish, it would have been even worse. And I thought Wan-Bissaka had an off game. I thought Gordon played well against Wan-Bissaka, but then Livramento bombing forward all the time made it virtually impossible for him. We're going to do the player ratings. Let me just refresh those. There's quite a few super chats I need to read as well, which I've just decided to just quickly let them mount up, and then I'll read them. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe, of course. Player ratings we're going to go through. Don't forget you can do that through the link in the video description. Mark every player out of 10, 6 being the average. Be very interesting to see what these scores are going to be. I'm interested myself. I don't think I've realised myself what I'm going to do yet. But let me just catch up on some of these super chats. Jack says 90% of the Premier League is better on the ball, off the ball. Erik Ten Hag in, but he's sacking himself. Yeah, I can't argue with that. How is the Newcastle team who played full game midweek had more energy than United? Says Math. Bradley says, seriously need to sell Rashford. Stick says, I wasn't Erik Ten Hag out until tonight. He doesn't even pick the right team for the style he wants to play. But you know, can I just say about the Ten Hag out movement? It's still as childish as it was a few weeks ago. He's just won 5 out of his last 6 Premier League games. So he's now won 5 out of his last 7. He's not getting sacked on that form. So Ten Hag out is silly. It won't happen. But it's also silly because it's the same players that fucked Ranić over. It's the same players that fucked Ollie over. It's the same players that fucked Jose over. Like, there is a player identity here. I personally, I don't think it'll happen. I think the manager will get sacked, if I'm being honest. But we'll still keep the same players again. We're not going. Sir Jim Radcliffe's not going to change anything unless he gets rid and has a cull of these players, and we all know it. So sacking the manager might happen, but I don't think it changes anything. Look how Garnacho played at times last season. That's Mainoo's got to develop. Exactly, Luke. Bruno G was superb, proper CDM. He was brilliant, Ross, and Joel Linton, and Livramento. Anfield battering incoming, says Paul. Head-scratching team selections going on. Yeah, I'd take a pop at Ten Hag for the team selections. It's crazy what he's doing. I mean, I don't know whether there's something in the water at Carrington that you start drinking it and go, McTominay's the answer. Get Maguire and Lindelof back at centre-back. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm so sick of how Ten Hag manages the team. He's incapable of making the right decisions, says Zhao. Do you back Ten Hag because he's good or because the alternative is much worse, says Lord? Well, the alternative is Steve McLaren and Darren Fletcher until May. Quinstar says, we're back in 2021, our worst ever season. Players don't care, says Quinn. Rashford is a mid-table player being paid a lot of money, says Andrew. Krish says, salutations, Mark. How has the intensity dropped so much compared to last season? Well, I think he's losing the players. I think you could see that from Rashford. He couldn't be arsed. I think some of the Varane's out the team. He's obviously lost him as well. He's lost the players. He's losing players. We're not Man United. We're mid-table club with a manager that I'm starting to think is only a mid-table manager, says Jack. Can we just look at Marcus Rashford and his body language? How is he getting the chance to start every game, says Flab. Well, maybe the club's run by players, mate. You know, it's been rumoured in the media for a long time that certain players run that football club, and maybe they do. I don't know. Eric Ten Hag continue with Rashford and Scotty when they're dross. At the end of the day, it'll come back to hurt him. I feel sick watching this lot, says Geordie. Ten Hag taking Mainoo off but keeping McTominay on is criminal. I don't know how McTominay started, let alone played another 90 minutes. You're down to 10 men straight away. If he doesn't score, and even if he does score, I still don't think he does enough. The most informed team, minute we play against a better team, we've been dominated, says Brendan. Well, we knew that was coming. Blame Scott, but silence over Rashford, says Isaac. Well, that's not true. May as well try Sancho, says Kieran. Did we actually keep the ball for over 10 seconds, says Peter. If we can give 5 years to Sir Alex Ferguson, we can surely give at least 4 to Ten Hag, says Garab. You know what it is with Ten Hag? I want to keep him. I don't want him to get sacked because I think we've done this so many times that we need to resist sacking a manager. And I keep saying this to people. Ewan says he misses Ronaldo. I keep saying this to people, right? They want to sack Ten Hag. What's your replacement? I feel like it's Groundhog Day, which is a good Christmas film. They want to sack Ten Hag, but who are you replacing him with in December? Who are you going to replace him with? Because for me, I just find it really childish. And there's some good people out there. There's some good people in the chat. I'm not saying that they're idiots and I'm not saying that they're not right to be angry. But I can't deal with, reactive nonsense. And reactive nonsense is, let's sack Ten Hag out. But you just become what you don't want to be. You become an uneducated flip-flop. And you don't want to be that. You're better than that. So if you sack Ten Hag now, what do you do? Darren, Steve, can you look after the team until May? No. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're going to sack him, make sure you've got a really good replacement ready to go straight away, because otherwise you're wasting another 6 months. So I'm not saying that Ten Hag won't get sacked, but what worries me about it is sacking him and not having a good replacement in mind. That would be a complete and utter travesty and a complete and utter waste of time. And I don't see the point in that. But what I will also concede is that he's doing himself no favours. If he was losing games, if we lost today with Varane and Shaw at centre-back and Amrabat and Mainoo in the midfield and Anthony on the wing and Højlund up front, I'd still be pissed off with that we lost, but I'd be more defending it, saying, well, at least he's picking the right players. The problem Ten Hag has with me, and I think some people who support him, is his team selections are shit. Like, I don't want to individualise it, so I'm not mentioning a name, but there's certain players that he keeps picking who are shit, and he won't pick other players for them. And that is not... I can't defend that. He played an outfield team which were all there before he came in. They have already proven who they are. As Roy Keane said, leopards don't change the shot spots. And Kishan, can I just say I want to kiss you? Because that is absolutely correct. He's gone back to picking players he didn't use last season who weren't good enough, but failed Ollie. He's binned Varane for centre-backs that failed Ollie. He's binned Amrabat, who he brought in, for midfielders that failed Ollie. He's binning wingers for wingers that failed Ollie. Like, and I don't get that. This is meant to be the Ten Hag era, and it looks like a Dutch version of Ollie. It's survival football. It's shit. And, I want Ten Hag to do well. And when we've done the Ten Hag in-out polls, it's been 80% in his favour. But if that drops, you're gone, mate. You are gone. You might not think fans are important, but you are gone. You will lose your job if you lose the fans. And you need to pay attention, because you picked a team tonight that nobody would have picked. And you're relying on players that we've seen play for Man United longer than you. We know more than you that they're not good enough. And yet you're using them to rescue you. They will let you down. You're better off going with Amrabat, who we don't know anything about. If you can get Mount fit, you're better off going with him as well, because we don't know anything about him. You've got to get your better players on the pitch. You've got to sell us something new. And at the moment, you're just selling us what Al Ollie did under a different manager. And we already know how this ends. Bring in De Zerbi and then watch De Zerbi play Ollie ball. Rangnick told us about these players, says Chris. Where are we against top 6 teams? I feel happy with the chance for ECL, says Robert. And doing player due diligence in the transfer market and cutting the wages is required, says Andrew81. I mean, look, if I speak, I'm in trouble. But, a lot of people are getting in on Rashford, and a lot of people are saying, let me just send that. Eric Ten Hag playing LVG football, says Robin. A lot of people are getting in on Rashford. I like Rashford. I was massively taken out of context by Rashford on Twitter. It wasn't even my video, Faz did it, but we said, what next? Rashford future uncertain as a title. And what we meant was, what next for Rashford? Because his place is under threat and he's such an important player at the football club. Now, Rashford replied to that on Twitter and we got a load of shit for it. And I almost feel like going, well, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong when we said, what next? Rashford picture, Rashford future uncertain. This is what we're talking about. Like, what is going on with Marcus Rashford? Garnacho's got his place on the left. He doesn't look happy on the right. He can't play down the middle. And yet he's on mega money with a mega contract. Like, what's going on with Marcus Rashford? And yet we got completely took out of context for that as a community, as an individual. And yet his performances this season are puzzling at best. His future has to be uncertain because he's either running the football club or he's too comfortable or something we're not aware about. Like, he shouldn't be anywhere near the team after tonight's performance, but he'll probably start against Chelsea. So what does that say about Man United and Ten Hag? He shouldn't play. I like Rashford. He shouldn't play on Wednesday. He has to be on the bench. Has to be on the bench because what he put in tonight after a week off, he didn't play against Galatasaray, was unbelievable. I almost thought, well, he's probably tired from Galatasaray. Well, I realised he didn't fucking play. Maybe Van Gaal told him to keep playing those players just for fun, get the sack and have a nice Christmas. Rashford is a disgrace, says Paolo. Well, let's do the player ratings. I know they're waiting on the fan forum. So let's do the player ratings. Why would anyone back Ten Hag? He's a liar who throws players under the bus and keeps Onana on just because he signed him. Egomaniac, says Da Vinci. You're not answering. What's the alternative, mate? We've had this chat 6 weeks ago when people said Ten Hag out, and you're just going to get the same response from me. You can be Ten Hag out. I don't agree with it. I'll respect it. But what's the alternative? Sack another manager, keep the same bunch of players who bounce for a new manager and then fuck him over in 18 months. McTominay was like a fart in the wind. Nickname transparent because I didn't see him yet again. Playing a team we wanted gone last season. Do we learn from our mistakes? Is Slow Sports News. The trouble with some of our players is they've got the ego of a Sergio Ramos, but they play like a Frey Bentos. And a Frey Bentos is a pie maker. And boy, do we get pied every week. This is the problem with United. Players who are paid superstar money and think they're superstars, but actually would probably struggle to get in the Everton team. I guess everything the pundits are saying about Ten Hag last season were right. Not being good enough, rubbish signings, not ready. They didn't say that last season, Matt. Has Rashford's PR team been in your DMs again? Scott is generally poor, but basically every game he's had been better than Rashford. James, I don't know why you're comparing Rashford and McTominay. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you comparing two players that were shite tonight? Let's be honest. An Arna for me, 4. Made a good save, but I'd expect him to make it. Coming for crosses like a fucking headless chicken. You know why I'm giving him a 4 tonight? Every kick seemed to go into touch. What have we bought? He comes for crosses like he's got no arms. He kicks like a fucking horse. I mean, he was dreadful tonight. And you know, I just don't get it. We bought him because De Gea kept kicking the ball out, and he kicks the ball out more than De Gea. I don't get it. Wan-Bissaka I thought was a 5. I don't think he played that well tonight, but I will give him an extra point because he was overwhelmed. I thought Gordon actually one-on-one gave him a good game, but the Livramento stuff really, really didn't help. Maguire, I'd probably give him a 5.5. I agree, 5.6. Maguire has found his level. He's playing in a team that defends at the edge of its box, and he can block and win headers. He can't get us 10 metres up the pitch, which we need to. He can't let the fullbacks go forward, which we need to. And he's not quick, which we need. So in the current survival mode, he actually works quite well. But for where we want to be, he ain't good enough. So I hope that makes sense. He actually played quite well tonight, but he's playing well in a team that's playing this shit brand of football that suits the way he wants to play. Luke Shaw, I'd give him a 6. And he's my man of the match. Marginally better than Maguire, simply because he's more mobile, simply because he gets the ball and wants to play out. I don't think there was a lot between Shaw and Maguire, but I just think Shaw gives us... I think Shaw can play, as we saw with Varane last year. Shaw can play higher up the pitch. He can take the ball. He can be more expressive. But, yeah, it wasn't great. Delo... 4.5, yeah, he got rinsed by Almiron a lot. He really struggled. I don't know why. I don't know why we played Delo over Reguilon as well, because it wasn't natural. I mean, he obviously doesn't trust Reguilon defensively, which I have said isn't great. Kobe Mainoo tonight's a 5 for me, and it's not in the sense of he was shit. I thought we have to be balanced. He's a young player. We all really like him. I think he's got a great future, but he did get overwhelmed. He never really got into the game. He was hung out to dry. I felt sorry for him. It wasn't a very good performance. And if I give him a 6, I'm disrespecting Miley and and Bruno Gomes and Joel Linton, who absolutely dominated our midfield. McTominay has to be a 3. I thought it was abysmal. His passing, he got bullied. The amount of times Joel Linton actually took him on. I mean, I very rarely see midfielders taking on their other midfielder, but he literally took him on loads. He was just like, he absolutely dominated him. McTominay, I don't know whether he was just so cozy in the pocket. It was obviously an insulated Joel Linton pocket because it was like he was asleep at times. There was a job within the job for Ten Hag when he got hired to make Rashford the star, the biggest brand of the club. He will never get dropped, says Zian. And can we all agree that Ten Hag has no idea, constantly playing players out of position, then players being blamed for bad tactics? Enough is enough, says Cyber. Bruno, I actually thought was all right. I'd give him a 5.5. I think Bruno gets a load of shit, but remember the pass to Garnacho? It was world class. He made a brilliant interception to stop Anthony Gordon going through one-on-one. He never stops running around, and I just think it's a bit unfair to say that Bruno Fernandes was shit when actually he's playing in a team that is fucking shit. And, it's a bit... I feel like Bruno's a little bit like Mainoo. He's in a team that is just fucking rubbish, and it drags his game down. Rashford today, look, I like Rashford, but it's got to be a 2. It's got to be a 2. I mean, even when he did get the ball, he misplaced it. It was poor. If Erik ten Hag thinks the fans are happy with these performances, then I seriously worry about him, says Moses. Garnacho, probably a 4. Yeah, just wasn't in the game enough for me. Wasn't in the game enough, and I thought that Trippier, if I'm being harsh, I think both their fullbacks absolutely dominated us. And I thought Trippier really showed experience against Garnacho, and, you know, Garnacho's still learning as well. For me, Delot is playing like he did a few seasons ago. I like him, but he's similar to when we loaned him off, says Slow Sports News. Martial, 3. Graveyard shift. Anthony, I mean, couldn't make an impact. Probably 4. Same with Rasmus, couldn't make an impact. Reguilon actually did okay when he came on, a 5. I thought, you know what? The last, I mean, it might be a complete and utter false dawn, but I thought he did all right against Galatasaray for an hour, and I thought when he came on, he did all right today. It might be because Newcastle were playing deeper, but I actually thought Amrabat 5.5 for me. I thought, you know, the game's basically gone, but I thought he did all right, especially when he's up against Isaac, who couldn't just knock it past him and one-on-one, and he kept his eye on the ball. He held him up for Luke Shaw to get back. I thought Amrabat did okay, and I really do think we would have been far better than playing Amrabat than McTominay. Ten Hag, look, 2. I'm not happy with Ten Hag tonight. I'm not Ten Hag out. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's stupid, but he has got to stop picking teams like this. And whatever the fuck is going wrong with Varane, sort it out, mate. You cannot play 3 games in 6 days and not give Rafael Varane a minute. That's grow up. Grow up. Rafael Varane has never fallen out with a manager in his whole career. He's not that sort of a player. Why are you making an example of a player like that? It's just grow up and start getting your best players on the pitch, because this ego ain't going to work at Manchester United. You're going to end up losing your job, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. Man of the match, Harry Maguire. Surprising. Fine. I don't think there's much of a choice. Luke Shaw, 2nd place with 30%. Bruno Fernandes in 3rd place with quite a low score. But Maguire, man of the match. Interesting. I suppose it was slim pickings. Right. I'm back in the morning at 10 o'clock. We'll be interested to see what people... In fact, just before I go, we're going to go over to the fan forum now. But let me just talk to you. They're about to go live on the fan forum. But let me just say... Ten Hag has said the team is resilient. We stick to the plan and keep going. What's your fucking plan, Eric? Picking Scott McTominay every week? Is that the plan? Maguire and Lindelof? Like, fucking hell, mate. You're gone. I'm telling you, I can't spell it out anymore. If you're going to keep picking Lindelof, Maguire and McTominay and putting Rashford on the right wing, you're gone. You're finished. You're going to lose your job. You've got to get your best players on the pitch. You've got to change it. Ten Hag asked about Rashford's form. I will talk to him and not with the media. Absolutely fine with that. Paul Scholes has said, going to these places, the first thing you do is work hard. You can see the joy that Newcastle are getting down both sides and feel sorry for the fullbacks. Too many lazy players on the football team. You can't get away with that. Well, Scholesy knows it. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Let's see what they've got to say on the fan forum. Thanks, everyone, for joining me tonight. Shit result for Manchester United, and there'll be a lot more stronger opinion coming up for you now on the fan forum. Get yourself over there. I'll try and push you over there as well. Don't forget, we're back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning as well. But let's see what they've got to say on the fan forum. Take care.